Well, welcome everybody to the 2026 MLB Best Bets with Shane Sandersville, David Brown, and Stephen Geller. We were actually thinking about changing the show from Best Bets to Bets because of our performance last year, but I think we're due for a big rebound this year. Last year we did a lot of pre-study for it. Full disclosure, tonight is the Netflix opener. Yankees and Giants are playing tonight. I have no idea what's going on in that. I don't think anyone else does here. So we're going in pretty blind, and also we're going in blind in terms of not doing our picks ahead of time. Last year was the first time we were a couple days late on getting this out. So we did our picks ahead of time. I don't think that's a good tactic for us. I think we should stick to just doing it off the cuff. So get ready for some freewheeling picks from all of us. And I guess I'll start off just with the interesting two things that I was going to mention going into the season. The two big things that are kind of like talking points: the ABS system, the challenge system, which was all over the place in spring training, and the World Baseball Classic. Those are just two things you can launch off of, or if you guys want to go somewhere else, go with it. But what do you guys think of what we saw heading into this year, and what things we can look forward to as the year starts with ABS and all these other rule changes?
I plan on challenging some of your picks by doing that.
They will be out of the strike zone, I promise.
And
I can
somehow the World Baseball Classic uh, finally turned the corner and is now a cultural event. I don't know how they made it happen, but it got the country into it.
You're talking to two of the biggest fans of the World Baseball Classic here, but I know you are skeptical. Where have you come? Have you come around on it?
I've come around, yeah.
Okay, all
And I
right.
speak for the culture.
You speak for the culture of who they're trying to get. What, did you find yourself cheering for Venezuela at the end?
No, I was cheering for
Okay,
the United States.
okay, that's
Although it is hard not to cheer for Met players on other teams.
yeah, that's a tough thing to do. And the other tough part of it is also seeing how excited the fans get, like when the US played the Dominican Republic and not getting caught up in it. I know that's been a hard one for Shane all these years because he had his guy Sammy Sosa. David Ortiz was always an entertaining one too. It's hard not to get caught up in the excitement that they have because our players just kind of do it. And those guys are just, it's life or death for them. They like it more than the World Series.
I think it's going to be a hard act to follow for the World Series after watching the World Baseball Classic. And as you mentioned, as guys that were following this way back in '06, and to Dave's point, the way it's grown and the way it had so much, I've never seen, I don't think in the last 5, 10, maybe 15 years, as much emotion in the final games that were going into the World Baseball Classic and especially the championship game. And to your point, it's so strange to watch your team's closer try to shut down your country that it's one of the few sports where your own guys are kind of working against you, but you kind of can be a little torn in who you're rooting for. But then to see the emotion at the end, I mean, how can you not appreciate how hard they were playing for their countries?
Well, it's a bad precursor for me that I had the Netherlands winning it all after I saw them beat the Orioles in spring training. So I might need to go back to the drawing board with these picks. The good part is two of the three of us got to see spring training this year. Shane was in Arizona, I was in Florida, and Dave probably had a better experience than all of us. Got to hang out with Mr. and Mrs. Met today.
How do you beat that? Look at that. Oh my word.
That
It's
is
me and my birth parents.
I said I've never seen Dave and Mr. Met in the same place, so I was a little bit skeptical of how all these things went down, but anyhow. All right, well, we've set the stage for you with a little bit of our banter, and we'll get on to the picks. As we've said before, we usually go AL West, NL West, NL Central, or sorry, AL Central, and then we start getting into the divisions that our teams in. So I'll start off. This is always the what do you call it? The 500-pound gorilla in the room, the LA Dodgers. The Dodgers did a lot of work, obviously. Kyle Tucker, everybody wanted, everyone talked about who's going to want him at the beginning of the offseason. The Dodgers were like, well, we don't really need him. And then they watched as the Mets tried to get him for 50 million a year. And they said, yeah, I guess we'll take him. So they loaded up on more good players. They now have about a 12-man pitching staff, and their over-under is 102.5. I'll let Shane start us off, and I'll go more than one by one after this. I just wanted to start off talking about the two-time world champion Dodgers first.
Well, I will say from getting a chance to watch the Dodgers and Cubs in Mesa, Mookie Betts was right on. He slammed one out of the park, had a double, looked great. It's a fun team for us to do every year because it's can they hit such a preposterous total? And last year their number was 103 and a half, I believe, and they were under. I mean, they were considerably under, despite their success at 93 wins. So this year at 102 and a half, it's kind of the same thing. I guess I'm gonna play the under here. Just I'm always kind of been one of those guys that says you have to earn it. I know they're the Dodgers, and I know I don't think the division is maybe as good as it was last year, although we'll see. I'm gonna take the under. I'm gonna make them earn it just because I always think there's so many factors that go in to trying to win over 100 games that I'm gonna make them prove it. So I'm gonna take the Dodgers under.
Dave, your team was the 500-pound gorilla financially for about 2 minutes until the Dodgers started pulling all these shenanigans. What do you think about the Dodgers this year?
I'm picking over, and it's because of one of the things that Shane said. That division's not as good as it was last year.
Yeah, I guess that makes sense. And that'll go to our next question of the three teams in the division. I'm going to go under, and it's only because I don't think they plan on having any starting pitchers go more than 120 innings. They've got all these different pitchers. I would say probably 10 or 11 guys are going to start for them this year. And some of those pitchers aren't that great, but they're good enough. The bullpen is deep again. But last year, I mean, it was funny because the year before they got to October and they were on fumes with their starting pitchers. And then all of a sudden the bullpen just came to life and they won the World Series. Last year's the opposite. The starting pitching was kind of on, no, I'm sorry, it's the other way around. The relievers were on fumes. They were terrible. And all of a sudden Yamamoto and all the starters, Glass, these guys are just coming Snell. They're pitching great just at the right time after being hurt for most of the year. So I really think this team has stopped taking the regular season as seriously. I do take your point that they can be really good and overpower their division because there's not that many, not really a good team in there, but I'm still going to go under.
One quick question for both of you guys, especially because from my Cubs perspective, I'm anxious to hear from both of you is how do you feel the Kyle Tucker addition is going to play out? Will it be first half of the Cubs, Kyle Tucker with the Dodgers, or the second half where he really struggled? Because I think that could play a huge part in this.
I'll let you take that first, Dave.
I have no idea which Kyle Tucker it's going to be. Was he hurt at the end of last year, and maybe he's now going to be healthy again?
I think
You
he
would
was
think, yeah. So you would think it would be better Kyle than bad Kyle.
I'll get to this with the Orioles, but later, but I'm of the opinion that when you play on these good teams and you have no pressure on you to produce, like what does it matter if he does well? He can be okay and they can still be really good, or he can be really good and they can even be better. Like I think it's a perfect scenario for someone like that. You're not even in like the New York market or the Chicago market where people are going to live and die day to day. The Dodgers do take it pretty seriously and their fans are good fans. But at the same point, it's like, who's really like going to get mad if Kyle Tucker goes in a tailspin in like May and then all of a sudden breaks out of it in June? He's got zero pressure on him. He can just blend in with all those guys and they can just take turns being hot, which is probably a good argument for your over, Dave.
75% of the country is sleeping when they're playing.
That's mostly just your sleep habit times, but that is true though. I agree. We'll go on to the next teams. I'm going to pair all three together because this is our annual question. You got Padres, 83 and a half. You got Giants, 80 and a half, a team that Shane and I have struggled immensely with over the years. And you got Diamondbacks, 79 and a half, a perennial favorite for Shane to go and lock it in as one of his best bets. Dave, can you just start us off on your thoughts of where those three teams are all going to sit over underwise?
They're all going to be right in that range. They're all going to, so give me the number and I'll tell you where they're going to be.
Padres, 83 and a half.
Under.
Giants, 80 and a half.
Over.
And Diamondbacks, 79 and a half.
Over.
Here's my interesting question to you guys, and especially Shane, because he dives into this world on and off a little bit as I do. I find the Giants fascinating that they just went and hired a college coach from Tennessee, Vitello, and I'm just really interested to see how this experiment works. So, Dave, you said under, over, and over for those teams. I guess, Shane, if you just want to start off talking about the Giants, then we'll get to the other ones. What do you think about that experiment, what they're trying to do? How do you think this all works out?
I think it's interesting because the team, and I did it a little backwards this year. Last year, I did a lot of winging it and it went horribly wrong. So this year, I got in the lab a little bit, tried to do a little more deep diving, and what I saw was the team I had the hardest time with was the Giants. Initially, I thought, okay, their numbers always right around 81 wins. Are they going to be above 500? Or are they going to be under 500? And I kind of, to your point, Steve, started thinking about the college coach. But the more that I started looking at the Giants, I think they could be a sneaky good team this year. And the more I read about them, the more I was looking at their moves, what Buster's doing. I really like the Giants this year, so I'm taking them as an over. I think they're going to be, and part of what went into this was I see real regression from the Padres. The Padres for me are probably the Giants are who I thought the Padres were the last couple of years. And I think they're going to make that move. So I like the Giants on the over. If we go with the Padres, I think you can tell I'm going on the under with the Padres. I think AJ Preller has been significantly handcuffed. The money, they've run out of money. They're not making any more big moves there. And I just don't see how this lineup and the guys that they lost would be able to get to 83 and a half wins. So I'm under on the Padres. And then was there one more? Who was the other one?
Diamondbacks 79 and a half. One of your favorite teams.
Oh, the Diamondbacks. I don't really like the veterans that they signed. The Diamondbacks are not a fun team for me to do. I'm going under on the Diamondbacks as well. So I guess, unfortunately for Dave, who said he didn't want to agree with me, we're on two of the three teams that you just mentioned.
Yeah, for these teams, I find it interesting. I think I'm on the same wavelength with you guys in the Giants. You get Devers for a full year. The bats in that lineup are pretty good. You have Adames, Devers, Chapman, all these free agents they've signed, and I also think they have a pretty good pitching staff, having Logan Webb kind of anchored in the pitching staff, and I do feel like they're kind of set up to be a pretty consistent team. Yeah, Logan Webb, Robbie Ray. They signed Adrian Hauser, who was kind of surprisingly good last year. So I'm going to go over on the Giants. The other one that I am kind of stuck with is the Padres, because the weird thing about the Padres is I kind of relate to them the way the Brewers have been the last few years, in the sense that they kind of look like they're going to regress and they look like they've lost something by subtraction. But when you look at their bullpen, it is awesome. They have Mason Miller anchoring that bullpen. They have Morahan, I think is how you say his name. There's three or four other good relievers. And I just feel like the pitchers are just going to be good enough and that bullpen's going to take over. I'm going to go a slight over with the Padres. It'll be like 84, 85. It won't be any more than that. And I guess for me, if I'm going to take the Padres and the Giants over, that means that I'm going to have to go under with the Diamondbacks. So I'm going under with the Diamondbacks. And then I'll start us off on this adventure of the Rockies, 54 and a half, and the Paul DePodesta experiment here. I mean, I knew the Rockies were just going to be awful last year. They were doing the same thing over and over again. Definition of insanity. What I like this year is they've shaken it up a little bit. That doesn't mean they're going to be any good, but I think they can be better than 54 and a half. So I do like the Rockies over, and I'll go to Dave to close out his picks on the NL West.
54 and a half seems so low. Yeah, I have to say over just because it just seems so low.
What about you, Shane?
I'm with you. I think you get a value here. I'm not saying it's a best bet material because you'd have to be crazy to get in that realm with a number like this. But 43 wins last year, you have to be absolutely terrible. I mean, that's all time terrible. That I think that brings their number probably lower than what it should be just based off how bad they were last year. That I'm willing to roll the dice on over. I mean, 54 and a half, you don't have to do a whole lot to hit that number. And so I think that's the smart, calculated risk play right there on the Rockies.
Yeah, I thought that made sense, and I figured we'd all kind of go that way. Last year, we kind of split on what we thought with this team, and the couple of us, I think Dave and I thought they were going to just be terrible, and we picked under, and we were right on them. But this is one of those years. Shane, we always had this principle that the lowest numbers, you should always kind of look really hard at that, and can this team actually have less than 54 wins? And I think this team can do at least like 56, 57. So like you said, not too confident in anything else. We'll go to the AL West, and I'll start us off with the trio that's on the top. And this is another one where you kind of look at the three, and what you want to do with these three is sort of, how you figure out what you're going to do with a lot of the rest of the AL and everything else. But I'm going to go Seattle 89.5, Astros 86.5, and Rangers, who tripped us all up last year, 83.5. And I'll start off with Shane.
Yeah, where do you want me to start on that,
You
Steve?
can start whichever one you want, any of the three. Well, we'll just Seattle 89.5.
Let's do Seattle. Yep, Seattle. I feel like this is a team that's getting undervalued just because their name isn't the Los Angeles Dodgers, the New York Mets, or the Yankees. I to get this team under 90 wins, I think is really positive if you're looking to make some money. I know I am. I love the Mariners here over. I think they're just a really, really good baseball team, among the best in all of MLB. And I just think that you don't always think about the Mariners. They came up a little short. I think they're ready to roll this year. I love their team, so I'm over on the Mariners. In terms of the Rangers, it's another over for me. I think they're the best teams among the non-Astros Mariners in the division. So I think that they're going to beat up on the A's and the Angels. And I've always been a big Jake DeGrom guy. I think Mackenzie Gore, and I'm going to be on an island here. I think he's going to be a lot better than what people think. And I think that's in a spot where if they can get production out of that spot in the rotation, they're going to be in good shape, and he could be a sneaky good ad. And then Astros, they hit the number basically right on the head last year. I think they were right around 87 and they finished with 87 wins. This is a group that's not getting any younger. And I think that age might catch up to them a little bit. Their farm system is nothing to write home about. So if they have any injuries, there's no one coming to help them. So I'm under on the Astros, over on the Rangers and the Mariners.
It's funny because the Rangers, I think all of us had them around the World Series last year. And
Oh, I had them in the World Series. Yeah.
yeah, we got fooled by the Bruce Bochy effect. And what I'm kind of wondering is, was that Bruce Bochy effect just for that 1 year? And then sometimes when, managers get older, things get stale and a little bit of that. And, they had injuries too. So I'm thinking maybe that happened. I do like there's a new manager bounce in terms of just a fresh approach to everything. I always get fooled by that team because that team on paper looks like a pretty solid group. You have guys like Wyatt Langford and Evan Carter, like good up and coming players that are really exciting. And for you, Dave, well, I'll let you talk about Brandon Nimmo and what you think he can bring to that team. Because Brandon Nimmo for Marcus Semien is one of the more interesting offseason trades. And it happened so long ago that it's kind of lost the analysis cycle now. So I'm going to actually go with Shane, and I'm going to do a slight over with the Rangers. I'm always a little bit over heavy on this team. I feel like I picked them over the last 4 years, and I think 2 of the last 3 years I've been burnt by it. Seattle, I'm also going to agree on this. I like that they're going to have a full year with Dan Wilson. I'm a huge Dan Wilson fan, former Golden Gopher, full disclosure, and have met him several times in that, coming to alumni events. And I when he first got hired as a manager, I knew he had been like starting his coaching career, but it came so quickly. And I was thinking his demeanor will be great, but what type of experience does he have? The experience needed to do this. And I think that team just loosened up and everybody kind of filled in their roles and did a great job once he took over. So I know he took some heat for some of the postseason decisions he had in the ALCS. But I feel good about them in year. And he was on that team that like set the record and wins. So he understands that put your pedal to the metal and like that excellence of maintaining it all year. So I'm going to go over. And I think Shane, I'm replicating exactly what you said because
Be careful.
like
Dave did that last year. Be careful. Dave did that last year. Didn't work
Yeah,
out.
because Shane,
Hey,
because he
you've been
talks
warned.
with such a authority, and you think he knows what he's talking about, and he doesn't, and he gets me every time.
Well, that's what we're all trying to do here. Talk with enough authority so people think that we know what we're talking about.
I
I'm
don't
not
know
sure anyone
anything.
buys it anymore.
Don't follow me.
We might have to just admit defeat after this year, though. I think we'll do better. But I'm going to say under for the Astros just because the one person I'm excited about their pitching staff because they did some things that I really liked that were smart. The Mike Burrows and Amai, getting those two, it's like those pitchers. all these guys are spending all this money on pitchers, and Amai was a nice bargain signing. Burrows was like an under the radar trade, but those guys could probably be every bit as good as some of the pitchers who signed for big money this year. So I like what they did. I just think they're going to take a little bit of a step back, so under. So Dave, I'll give you Seattle 89.5, Astros 86.5, and Rangers 83.5. What do you think?
Oh, Rangers up. 83 is low. Yeah, Rangers up. Astros down. I was gonna put Seattle over until I heard the manager's a friend of yours. That doesn't seem that's a
That
wise
might be a
move.
little bit of a stretch.
He's talking baseball with you. No, but Seattle definitely over. Did I just do the same as Shane?
We all did the same thing
We all
there.
did the
We're in
same?
trouble. Yeah, we're in deep
Yeah.
trouble. Um, let's go and have some fun, everybody, because this is everyone's favorite team to pick every year, and I'm going to cluster them together. Let me talk about these two things. I'm going to go to Dave because Dave is the one who always is pretty rational about this, and we're irrational on the Angels. He is pretty cold and hard and just goes under and knows that they're not very good. Last year, that actually backfired on him, but up until last year, it had served him pretty well. And then Dave, we always talk about how when I do predictions or fantasy baseball drafts, I'm always a year early. My question to you is, are you a year early having picked the A's as your wild card last year? So A's 75.5, Angels 70.5. What do you think on those?
Oh, A's are over. A's are over. Yeah, I was a year early last year. They're doing it this year. A's are over. Angels under.
Angels under. Yeah, I definitely have to go over with the A's. I agree with that. Angels, I never know exactly what to do with this team because, and I liked them last year for this reason. They actually went out and they made some moves and got some people to pitch for them. And they've been so nondescript with what they've done. They did get Kikuchi. That's what I was trying to look at. And they made the trade with the Orioles and Grayson Rodriguez. Guess what? He's already hurt. So, so that may be what they get to. Neto kind of came into his own last year. I don't really love this lineup, but they do have a perennial like grinder that I like in Adam Frazier. I'm going to be stupid and I'm going slight over with the Angels. What do you think, Shane?
On the A's, and again, like I said, I think I found some things here that are going to be beneficial. You're going to get a better version of me this year. And one of the things that I didn't know until I did a little research, A's were 40 and 41 on the road last year, which was second only in the division to the Astros, who were only 41 and 40. I think they're going to figure out Sacramento a little bit more this year. They weren't very good there last year, but I think they were making the adjustment. I think they're going to get a little more comfortable there. And we're not being given a number that's really scaring me that much. So I'm over on the A's. And then when we come to the Angels, I mean, uh, I don't know what to do with this team. And you know what? I don't think the ownership does either. I tried to learn my lesson not to throw, good money after bad. I'm going to try to do that here. I don't believe in the Angels anymore. I've been down that road. I've given my heart to this team and hitting overs. I'm done with it. I'm going to go under here. I think the ownership just doesn't have any direction. I don't know what they're trying to do with the Angels. And, big fan of the Who. We won't be fooled again. We just won't
Nah.
be fooled.
They don't know what they're going to do. No, they definitely don't. And I will say this though, Shane, we went over on them last year and that worked. They actually went over. They started
Barely,
off pretty well. Yeah, they
barely.
started off well and then they just fell apart.
Yeah.
But they were good for about a month, maybe month and a half, and then it just kind of all came crashing down.
That division's become really, really good, though. I mean, it's the bottom feeders are going to struggle because there's no easy outs.
Well, not only that, but I think the AL's become better. If you look at that division, there's four good teams there, and then there's four really good teams in the AL East as well. And even the AL Central has at least two, maybe three good teams that you can talk about. And speaking of that AL Central, we can move to it right now. Um, Shane, I have to start out with you on this one because the number's really low. They didn't really do that much. This is a favorite play of yours every year. What do you think about Guardians 79.5?
You're probably going to be a little surprised. They're one of probably two or three teams I'm big on every year, but I think this is a regression team for me in 2026. When you look at the season that they had last year, there's no 15 and a half game comebacks to win the division. I think you rarely see a team have not just like when I say a magical season, I mean a season that the fans look back on. There have been many Cubs teams that I've had magical seasons of that faltered big time in the playoffs. That was a magical season for the Guardians. They did something really special. It's going to be so hard for them to try to even come close to that. And you think what they had to do to hit the number last year, I just don't see it. So while I've usually been a big over guy on the Guardians, I'm under this year.
I'm going to take your place this year because I don't know what it is. I just feel like this team, I look at the pitching staff especially, and I go, I don't really love this pitching staff, but they do have Gavin Williams and Tanner Beebe, who are pretty solid. And they always seem to figure out two or three other guys who I don't even really understand why they're good, but they always do that. Cade Smith stepped up as a closer with all the shenanigans going on with Clase and Ortiz. I mean, that's one of the weirdest stories and the gambling stuff. And that's got to be going on in a lot of other places, but we don't have to go down that road today. But I will go over with the Guardians. The lineup actually surprises me when I looked at it. I think Manzardo is going to take a step forward power wise, and they signed Hoskins and Delauder. I actually like as a player. So people like kind of bash their middle of the lineup, but it's actually not a bad middle of the lineup. And I always say whenever they play the Orioles, one of my favorite players who I wish played for the Orioles is Stephen Kwan. I love watching Stephen Kwan play. What do you think, Dave?
I am clearing my throat so I can say this with a full voice. I am going under with the Cleveland Guardians. They are one of those program picks, the ones that you bet on the franchise because of, but at some point you got to cut bait. I've cut bait with the Cardinals. I think this is the year I'm also cutting bait with Milwaukee. There's a preview for the NL Central. And I'm going to cut bait with the Indians, or the artists formerly known as Indians, and going under.
They're Guardians for you. Then we've got Detroit and the Royals. Detroit 85.5, Royals 82.5. I'll go on this one. I don't know why. I don't really understand how I can do this, but I guess I will. I like the over for both of those teams. And the Tigers, for whatever reason, they've been kind of a darling of mine for the last 3 years. I liked them 2 years ago before anyone thought they were good. I really liked them last year, and that looked like a great pick for about 4.5 months, and then it really got dicey. They came very close to not hitting the over last year. But I will go over with them. I like the Framber Valdez and Skubal 1-2. And I think that lineup is full of young hitters whose arrow are pointing up, which I also like about that. So I'm going to go over with them. And I think the Royals kind of licked their wounds from last year, and they get back on track too. Cole Reagans, if he can be healthy if he can kind of rebound from the injury issues he had, I think he takes the next step into being a dominant starting pitcher that does that for an extended stretch of time and puts himself among the elite 5 or 6 pitchers in the AL. So I'm going over on both those. What do you think, Dave, for Detroit 85.5, Royals 82?
85. I was so surprised to see that so low. That's going over. And it's going over not just because of those top 2 pitchers, but because the rest of this division is pretty garbage. So that's going over. And I'm not so in love with the Royals. I think the Royals are probably the definition of a 500 team. So I'm going to go under and say they will actually be a 500 team.
Shane, what do you have on those 2 teams, Detroit?
I'm so glad that you went with Dave before me on these, because the Detroit number, which is the lowest projected over under number for who Vegas sees as a division winner at 85.5, it just seems off to me. It doesn't make sense. I would have thought more, maybe 87, maybe even 87.5. It seems so low in a division where you think the winner, who I think is pretty clear, I think it's pretty clear it's going to be the Tigers. You may argue the Guardians, but it just didn't make sense. But that's where I love, even more than if you would have gone first, Steve, Dave separates the emotion. He just sees right through the BS, and he's calling an over, which is what I had. I had an over, so I feel a lot better about that pick now. I'm taking over with the Tigers. And like Skubal, he just rights a lot of wrongs. I mean, 20% of your games, he's going to take care of you. So that's a great start. And then Royals, I looked at it last year. I thought the Royals had a disappointing season based on what I thought they were going to do, and they still came within about a game and a half of hitting their number. I think Reagans is a stud. I'm a huge fan of his. I think Waka and Lugo give him a good 2 and 3. And if I was disappointed last year and they missed it by a game, I think they're going to be better at roughly the same number. So I'm gonna go over. I'm gonna go over on both those teams.
Yeah. So you've got over under in this division. You're not quite, you haven't backed yourself in quite the corner I have, where I have three overs in any of these last two teams. Shane, of course, I have to go with you for this next one because I love hearing your thoughts and what you want to do with the Minnesota Twins. They're sitting at 72.5 and the White Sox at 67.5. What do you have for those two?
First thing, when I saw the Twins number at 72.5, my initial thought was, well, this has to be an over. But then the more I thought about it, and I mean, there is such a bad taste in the mouth of anybody who's associated with the Twins. And while I like Joe Ryan and I like Bailey Ober, if anything happens to those guys, and I mean anything, they're out 2 weeks. I don't care. This team is going to come unglued. I mean, the more I look at it, I don't see how they don't go under 72.5 wins. I mean, trying to hit 70, you've got Byron Buxton, who's among the last of the position players, and we know he can't stay healthy. I just, the other consideration, and I try to do this with a couple teams a year, there's no way Joe Ryan finishes the season in Minnesota. There's just no possible way. And that's where I got in trouble with the Blue Jays last year. Maybe I'll get in trouble with the Twins. The difference is the Blue Jays still had talent. The Twins don't. I'm under on the Twins. And then the White Sox, just another team with no momentum. To be honest, they should bring Ozzie Guillen back just to pump some life into this crew. The pitching is bad. The front office is terrible. You've got Frank Thomas suing the organization. Tell me going into opening day, what team is praying that they install relegation to go to a different league because nobody's heading to the South Side? This is an under.
Oh, do I go now?
Yes, you do.
Yeah, that White Sox pick was a total Cubs fan pick. Wow. Like in a league where you have the Twins and you have the Rockies and you have the Nationals, like the White Sox are the ones I know they've been bad, but I actually like kind of like some of the stuff that they've done. I think the White Sox are over, and they're going to get those wins from the under Twins.
So you're
Dave,
picking
Dave,
under.
like I said,
Yeah, they're flip-flopping. They're
emotional,
flip-flopping.
and you see you see the analytics. I don't blame you one bit.
So the weird part for the Twins for me is I look at that roster and there's still some pretty good players on that team. They just never stay healthy. Buxton is a really good player when he stays healthy. I don't know what on earth has happened to Royce Lewis because I watched that guy play 2 summers ago and I thought this guy's a future all-star. I mean, they're going to ride on this guy and he's going to be amazing. And last year he really took a huge step back. You mentioned Joe Ryan. Bailey Ober can look really good at times. And then the other part is Luke Keeschel's an exciting like second baseman coming up. And Jeffers is a pretty good catcher. I think there's some decent players on this team, but the one thing that I keep thinking is this team traded their entire bullpen. And I look at their bullpen now and I don't really see guys who they came in and replaced them with. Now, bullpens can vary from year to year and they can be erratic, but there was really no effort made at all to make that bullpen fix it again. And the other thing that I think is the Twins, this is a good thing, but I think it's a bad thing for this year. They have a lot of young talent in that organization. They're going to be very good in, I would say, 2 years. But they're in this stretch right now where I think, like you said, Shane, they'll pull the hook early and just start loading up young assets if they get off to a bad start. That's going to happen really quick. The sell-off is going to happen really quick if they're not good to start the year. And I hope they aren't because they start off with the Orioles tomorrow. So I'm going to go Twins under 2. And I think I'm going to agree with Dave on the White Sox. The lineup is hard. You look at the lineup, and I'm excited about Murakama and Colson Montgomery. And Merdroth was pretty good as a leadoff hitter. But some of these other guys, they have Austin Hayes batting second, it's a solid major league player. And they've got Sosa, Quero, and I think Acuna, who the Mets traded them. There's just all these guys that I just don't have any idea what they're going to do for them this year. And then they have the all-import team, which is Fetty and Anthony Kay, who came from, I think, the Korean
Yeah.
League. So they're experimenting with all sorts of things. I just feel like and this is stupid because I already picked three overs, but I just had this feeling that the White Sox are going to win 70 games, and that's all they need to win. And that's
Yeah.
what I'll give them. So. Well, we get things get a lot more interesting now because we start to head to divisions that we care more about. And the first division that we're going to head to is the NL Central, where Shane's Cubs reside. And this is another one of those clusters where you look at three teams and you go, what am I going to do with these three teams? So instead of making that decision myself, I'm going to start Dave off with that decision and ask him, what do you do with Brewers 84.5? You gave us the preview, so I figured we'd go with you first. Reds 80.5 and Pirates 78.5.
Oh God. That was a lower Brewers number than I was expecting. What was that number?
84.5.
84.5. Well, I'll tell you, look, the Pirates are over. I think they're going to be my A's of this year.
So they'll be great in 2027.
The Pirates are over. The Reds are under. I think that in a weird way, their rebuilding peaked, and that's going to be the ceiling of this particular group that they put together, and they're going to have to do it again. Um, and the Brewers number was what, 84.5?
84.5. Yep.
Yeah, they're going to go under also. Pirates over, Reds and Brewers under.
Shane, what do you think about that, about those three teams?
I'll go in reverse order with the Brewers. They're my new Cardinals play. Um, until they do anything that's astronomically embarrassing, I'm going to put them on the over. I really, Pat Murphy sold me on this crew. I think they were 83.5 was their number last year. They hit 97, eliminated the Cubs. I mean, I know they didn't get to the World Series, but you couldn't ask for a better season than what they had. And I think that a little bit of people always putting the Cubs are going to get the division. The Cubs are going to get the division. I think you get a bunch of value on the Brewers every year because people just assume the Cubs are going to win the division. And I'm sold on Pat Murphy. I think he's a really good manager. I think they're a really good organization. So I'm over on the Brewers. Who's next? The Pirates?
Pirates are 78.5 and Reds are 80.5.
Pirates and Reds. Let's go with the Pirates. I'm actually a little surprised. I think the Pirates, they spent some money, right? And they decided to make a little bit of a play, which I think was great. And when you're the Pirates and you get into a situation where you're finally going to open the checkbook a little bit, you have to be smart. You can't be like the Yankees and make mistakes and then just spend more money to, compensate for your previous errors. I think the Pirates spent really well. I like O'Hearn. I like Azuna. I mean, they're going to be a fun team to watch. Now they got some pitching. They got some guys who can do some stuff with the bat. I'm over on the Pirates at 78.5. I think that's a solid play. And then last but not least, the Reds, to Dave's point, I've waited around long enough for this team. They are who they are. I think Hunter Green starting on the IR, that's not a great sign. I just keep waiting. You keep waiting. This was a team, I think, if you went and listened to our last couple years of us doing this, we've said Reds are coming, and we're still here waiting. So I think the Pirates take their place. I like the Pirates to surpass the Reds. I'm under on the Reds.
Yeah, this is a tough one for me because the one thing about these top three teams in the Cubs, Brewers, and Reds is I love all three of their managers. But I like the Pirates and where their arrow's pointing up. I just don't know Don Cat. Like I just don't know much about their manager, and you have to pick at least one, if not two, of these teams to go under. Um, so for me, I think I'm going to stick with you when it comes to the Brewers. I just think they've figured out how to replace it. I like the trade that the Brewers made with the Mets. I could see like Jet Williams being a very productive infielder, or being a very productive player for them because that's just the thing that they do. They get these guys, and they turn them into productive players. They've got Sprout and Harrison. One of those guys will probably be a good pitcher this year. They'll figure it out, and they just do a good job of that. This is the toughest one: the Reds or the Pirates. The Reds or the Pirates.
It's always the Reds or the Pirates.
Yeah, it's always the Reds or
Absolutely.
the Pirates. Francona, who I trust so much, but then you've got that loaded like pitching staff of the Pirates and Ryan O'Hearn, who became one of my favorite, players over the last couple of years playing for the Orioles. I probably think I'm going to go with Shane here. I like the over for the Pirates, and I think I'm going to go. Ah, man, that is a tough one for the rest. I'm going to go over for all three. Why not? Let's spread the happiness. I'm going to go Reds because I do think the Reds can be a 500 team. They can be 81, 82 wins. That probably means that I'll have to change something else down the line, but I'm going Reds over. Uh, Dave,
Steve, what you do that's really positive for the program is that so many of our fans that watch this and want to hear overs for their teams, if they don't get them from Dave or from myself, they know they're going to get them from you. And that's what keeps this thing going.
listen, last year I did this all ahead of time and my over-unders were perfectly split. And I thought that's smart. I've done it the right way. I always go too over heavy. And then I had a mediocre year. So it really wasn't any different than when I just pick overs for everybody. So why not just spread the happiness and joy all the way around? Dave, I'm going to go to you next. I think you were the one who made actually a smart play on this last year. Shane and I said, Cardinals, they stink. We're done with them, blah, blah, blah. We jumped off and they actually went over last year. This year they're 69.5. What do you think, Dave?
No, this year they're going to go under. Did I say under last year? I went over last year. Whatever. Yeah, they're not. You can tell they're not. They're not trying this year. They're not even trying.
Yeah, I mean, I think what they did that's smart is they got rid of some of the players who really don't care anymore and are just getting paid a ton of money. And I know fan bases don't like when teams do that, but I think that's good for like next year and the year after. This year I don't think it's going to do much for them. Shane, what do you think? I got under.
The Cardinals. The Cardinals, their number reminds me a little bit of the Yankees that we'll get to in a little bit. It seems a little low. They're the team I spent the least amount of time looking at because when you give me a number of 69.5 for the Cardinals, they are asking you to take the under. So I'm going to do it. I'll go under on St. Louis. It looks like this is truly a tear down project for the Cardinals.
And now we get to the team that Shane's favorite team. And this is a high number. This is one of the higher numbers I've seen for the Cubs, 88.5. Last year, I was the defender of the Cubs here. Shane and Dave did not like the Cubs. They said under, they kind of talked down on them. And I did the typical thing that I always do where I made them sound like a great team and then I picked under. So we were all wrong on them last year and they really showed us up. They had a good year last year. This year, obviously, they made a lot more noise. They signed Bregman. That's a big signing. They traded for Cabrera. And they kind of filled in pieces, and it looks like a pretty good team. The challenge here is that I think this is actually a pretty good division, and 88.5 is a lot. That just seems high. I think they're that's probably right around where they land, so it is a good number. I just don't, it's tough to figure out where to go with this team. I'm going to go slight under. Like, I think they're an 87, 88 win team. I'm going to go under, even though I feel like I'm the same place as I was last year with them. I like them, but I just can't get that like one little thing that I want to do to pick them to be a 90, 95 win team and to build on it. Dave, what do you think?
I have to go under also, but I really see them as an 88 win team. I think they win the division, and I think it's kind of by default. I don't love them. I never love what they do. Ever since they signed Dansby Swanson, I've never liked what the Cubs are doing. I don't think they know what they're doing. I really don't think that they have a great plan. I don't. They're kind of like a smarter version of the Angels. No offense, Shane.
Wow.
I'm going under, but they're still going to win the division. But I'm going under.
I think Dave heard my White Sox rant and said, "You just wait till we get to the other team across town. When we get to the winner, I'm gonna give it right back to you." We are now, when you talk about, according to Dave, the terribly run franchises, you get the Rockies and you get the Cubs, and that's it. Those are the two. It's nobody else, right? So the Cubs last year, I was down on. I was wrong. I didn't think it was going to work out, and the pitching was considerably better than what I thought it was going to be from guys like Matthew Boyd. I thought pitched well above his pay grade last year. He was fantastic. And I labeled the team last year as grinders. That team was the New York Mets. I think we know I was wrong on a lot of stuff last year. I was definitely wrong on that. The team I think has a bunch of grinders. I think it's this Chicago Cubs team. And I know Dave doesn't like them, and Steve thinks it's right around the borderline. I'm going over with the Cubs this year. I think Pete Crow Armstrong is going to be Pete Crow Armstrong. I like the additions. I think Cabrera is going to be great in the three spot. And I think Cade Horton's going to stay healthy. And he was a huge part of that run last year. I think he becomes essentially a 1B to Boyd's 1A. I also think this is a team, especially after seeing what Milwaukee has done, they take Milwaukee very seriously now. And I think when you spend the money to get a manager like the Cubs did, you need to play to win. I mean, winning the division isn't enough. They're going to make a move at the deadline to pick up whatever they need. They're going all in. And for that reason, I think they will go over 88 and a half.
Shane, and you and Dave, and we've talked about this in the past, have been kind of skeptical on like their offseason plans and what they've done. This year they go out and they get Bregman, who they wanted last year.
Yeah.
And so they got a guy that they targeted. And then you're wondering, oh, who's going to get Cabrera? Someone's going to land him, and the Cubs come from left field and get him. What do you make out of that compared to like the past off seasons they've had a couple of years? Because this year it seems like they did what fans would want them to do.
I think the thing that they did, which wouldn't have happened in previous years, everybody wanted them to get Kyle Tucker. I think they looked and said, we can't afford to put all this money in a guy that not necessarily the physical attributes. Let's say he was coming back healthy. He just didn't seem to me to be a guy that really embraced being a Chicago Cub, that was a guy the other team could rally around. I mean, PCA was still the leader, you know, the emotional guy. I never felt like they got it from Tucker the second half of the season. Couldn't really bank on him in the postseason. I like getting Bregman and Cabrera over trying to bring back Tucker. I think is a huge move for the Cubs. I think part of that is they're keeping a little bit left in the chamber to make one more move that we're not going to know about until we get to June and July. But I do believe they will go hard at trying to win the whole darn thing this year.
Well, and I will say Bregman was a guy who everyone talked about turning Boston's young players into winners last year. And people have said that about him in the past. Last thing I'll say, and then we'll move on. Last year, the thing I was skeptical on, and the reason I went over on the Cubs was their bullpen. I just didn't know what to expect in the bullpen. And, Palencia was really good. We obviously saw him in the World Baseball Classic. And that bullpen was actually pretty good last year. So I think if they can get that type of a bullpen, it really sets the stage for them. I'm pretty much saying they're going over and then picking under, but yeah, I do. There's a lot of aspects of the Cubs I like. It is just a really high number. I think it's the fourth highest number in the NL. So that's kind of the interesting part of all this.
Well, Dave hits on a good point. You're not going to get free wins in this division. The other thing is, I was a little surprised at them bringing back Shota. He was downright terrible at the end of the season. I mean, it was a homer an inning. It was that bad. So I don't know. That doesn't make a ton of sense to me. I don't see that guy being a real factor. That could be a problem. The other thing is Boyd. He ate a lot of innings last year. Justin Steele is going to have to come. I'm not saying right away, but he's going to have to pick up Boyd when we get to August, because they're banking a lot on Boyd, and he eats a lot of innings that I'm afraid he's going to get tired at the end of the year. Steele's got to pick up those innings and be the guy he was in 03 or 23 and 24.
Okay, so we'll shift on to the NL East now after a nice robust NL Central conversation. We got Marlins 72.5, Nationals 65.5. This Nationals team fooled me. Shane, you were actually on them pretty good last year. 2 years ago, they were much better than people thought. Last year, they were much worse than people thought. And now they seem to be one of those teams in the direction of saying, let's hit the reset button. Let's kind of get things back. They got a new GM. They're just trying to figure it out. I'm going to go under on the Nationals. I'm going to go over on the Marlins because I think their GM last year did a really good job of just getting pieces, young pieces. And he kind of did what the Brewers did. They make all these trades and people go, oh, what do they have left? What do they have left? And then little by little, one after the other, Kyle Stowers pops up. There's like players popping up everywhere. And you're like, where'd that guy come from? He came in that trade. This guy came in that trade. This guy came in that trade. Marlins have done a good job of that. Plus, Even though they traded Cabrera, this team is still loaded with good arms. And if a guy like Max Meyer stays healthy and Yuri Perez, if those guys can stay healthy, those are gigantic ifs. But I like them to go over 72 and a half. What do you think on those guys, Shane?
I'm going to keep this one a little short since I went long on the Cubs, but you pretty much summed it up as well as anybody's going to. I've got Nationals under and Marlins over. Nationals because I just think that their pitching staff is really really bad. I mean, it's to have that sort of pitching staff in this division, they're going to get beat up night after night. So that seems like an easy underplay to me. And then I'm with you. The makeup of the Marlins, I just feel like they're a team that's going to always overachieve. They beat their number by 16 wins. I mean, they were 63 and a half last year and hit 79 wins. They're at 72 and a half here. I like the way they run this organization. I'll take the Marlins over.
Dave, what do you got on these two?
Same as you guys. Marlins scare me. They always do. I mean, this is just Mets PTSD talking. And the Nationals are the exact thing that I was talking about the Reds, except the Reds were a little bit better when they reached the ceiling of their current rebuild. The Nationals got as far as they were going to get. Now they're tearing it down. But there's like this will now be their second rebuild from the World Series. Like I thought they were doing it right, and then they just reached a ceiling that was very, very low.
It's interesting. They're kind of tearing down a teardown.
Exactly,
I
exactly.
don't understand it. It's like they never really got to the point where they rebuilt the teardown. Now they're just tearing it down again. So
Yeah.
it's kind of interesting to see. Shane, I'm going to go to you for these next two, and this is another duo where you're like, and actually trio, but we'll say one of them because it's Dave's favorite team. But you've got Phillies 89 and a half, Atlanta 87 and a half. Atlanta's had some pretty high numbers the last couple of years, and they finally just blew up and just crashed off the track last year. But they had a boatload of injuries. And then you got the Phillies, who they're always loaded. They always have a good roster, but these guys are getting a little older. What do you think, Shane?
For the second time in a row, you've nailed it. I've got Phillies as an under. I had them as an under last year because of kind of the same thing. I thought they were getting a little bit older, but I mean, they did the job. 96 wins on a number in 91 and a half. This year, you see a little bit of regression at 89 and a half for the number. I just don't see how they're going to keep doing it. I think this team's getting older, and I'm not willing to buy in on that number. Not saying they can't make the postseason. I'm just under on 89 and a half. And then the Braves, that's been a team that you kind of always felt pretty comfortable taking the under. I don't know how to respond from their season last year, which obviously everything just kind of came off the rails. Walt Weiss taking over. It's kind of hard to project what that's going to look like. So I'm going to probably be a little more cautious here. I'll go under 87 and a half on the Braves. So two unders for me on those two teams.
Yeah, I'm kind of confused what to do here as well. Similar to the Cubs, I just 89 and a half, that's such a high number. And it's for a team that I like the roster maybe when it gets to the postseason. I think they have some guys who can do some good things. But Zach Wheeler, like when is he actually 100%? Is Andrew Painter going to be a good pitcher right out of the chute? Nola, is he going to rebound? And I don't know the answer to any of those things. And I've been a pretty big proponent of over for the Phillies, but here I'm going to go under. And the other thing I'm going to do is I'm actually going to go over with the Braves. And I agree with you, Shane. It's probably better to be cautious with this team, but I just feel like so much went wrong with them. And I feel like this is like a breath of fresh air season. And you have a guy like Drake Baldwin to build off of who even gave them something in there. Their pitching is a little bit shaky now, and with Schwellenbach, being hurt, and now Strider sounds like he's hurt too. I'm a little bit worried about that, but I do think this team finds a way to go over. 87 and a half is also pretty high, but I think I'm going to roll the dice and go over with the Braves. What do you got, Dave?
I'm going under with the Braves because it already seems like it's going off the rails like it did last year. It's got that same feel to it with Profar and the two injured pitchers. It's almost like a repeat. And the Phillies, I'm going over because they just seem like the type of team that is kind of like uh, they, not to use Shane's words because I don't think they're grinders, but they're just the professional team that puts on their work boots and just gets you 90 wins every year. The same group of people.
I said last year the Phillies were that was my World Series team to win it. And I liked it because I thought a lot of those guys were ready. That was the year. And where do they go from here? Like, do they
Well, you
just
see,
keep
here's
the
where
same thing?
I think that's all. I think that's all they're gonna do is get you their 90 something wins in the regular season and not be there for the playoffs again.
Yeah. Yeah, I guess that could be true. Shane, we'll tackle the Mets before getting the in-depth analysis with Dave. Um, I still don't know exactly what to do, so I'm going to push it off on you to start off with. We'll go Mets 90 and a half.
I'm big on the Mets. I was big on them last year, and I think I was a year early. I think that when you look at their number from an analytical standpoint, 90 and a half coming off a disappointing season, it matches their number from last year when I think they had way more hype. So that tells me that's a Vegas clue to me. I think it's an over on the Mets. I think they figure some things out. And the other thing I like about the Mets is at this point, you know they're not going to be afraid to spend money. And when Joe Ryan's pitching for them in the postseason, Dave's going to be a happy man. So I'm over on the Mets. I think they're going to have a good year.
Yeah, I think I'm there with you. I'm not quite as enthusiastic on the Mets. I feel like they're going to go over, but I feel like I mean, anytime you pick a team to win 90 wins, you're picking them to be a championship level team. So I do think they are that. And the other thing is, I feel like the Mets were such a typical New York market story this year. Sky is falling. Alonso's gone. What's this team doing? Diaz is gone. This team's terrible. And then they trade for Peralta. They kind of retool some things. They get a team that's more contact heavy, a la what the Blue Jays did last year. So I like this team. And I think more than anything, I like this team because now they've got some good young starters. Nolan McLean is an up and coming star pitcher. They have some other places where I think they've gotten stronger. And I think defensively and contact wise, they've gotten a little stronger. So I think what they did is they really tried to like plug in some of the things that really led to long losing streaks last year, which, they had some of these things where they're riding high and then bad fielding or just these long slumps where people kept striking out kind of got to them or they had bad starting pitching clusters or whatever. I think they've filled enough of that to be a good team. I don't know what I have them doing past that, but I'm going to say they're a 91, 92 win team. Dave, do you agree with us or are we both?
You're both right on the money. You described them and what they did and what they wanted to do perfectly, and I agree with that. I don't agree with your overs though, and it's in an odd way. I I believe them to be as good as you think they're going to be. I'm uncomfortable, and maybe it's because I'm a Mets fan, going over a 90, what is it, 90 and a half?
90 and a half. Yep.
I'm a little uncomfortable with it. I see them as like getting in as a wild card 88 wins. Of course, I think that the potential is there for them to get into the 90s, and they almost it's almost a defense mechanism of me going under, I think. It could be where I take the emotion out of everything else, Shane. I may be putting the emotion in this and protecting myself, but like kind of hedging. But I do think this is a team because there are so many new players may take a little bit of time to get themselves to gel. I think they're a team that will peak later and not earlier. I think uh, they will be coasting to a wild card. I think 88 will be around the number, and I think they'll be peaking around playoff time. So I think the best is going to be later in the season and into the playoffs, but I think it takes perhaps a little bit of time for them to get themselves together.
What did this over under number look like before they traded for Peralta and signed Bichette? Because those were like big splash moves. And I feel like we went from completely being out and down on the Mets, they're going to be terrible, and disregarding some of the talent development. They've actually done a good job on with the young players. Like nobody was paying any attention to that. And then all of a sudden, Bichette and what's it? I just said his name. Bichette and Peralta signed.
Peralta.
And And all of a sudden it's like, oh yeah, they're the best team in the league. All of a sudden they
Well,
have the second highest number. And to me, it's just such a back and forth pinball with them. And that's why I think it's really hard to pick them, because when people were saying how bad they were, I thought they were a lot better. When people started talking about this is great, I was like, I don't know.
no, I think that once the national media got a hold of everything, the New York media obviously follows the New York teams day in and day out. The national media will take a look at it when they're complete. I think the old crusty New York media don't understand how to build a team anymore. I think they still think that the Yankees of the George Steinbrenner years are the way to do it, and I think that's how Cashman thinks also, and that's why the New York media loves the Yankees and always will, even though the Mets are doing it in a much smarter way, but it's a different way. And I think so when they were leading the conversation and creating the narratives, it was doom and gloom. When the smart people like the pitching ninja and everyone else got a hold of this team and starts analyzing it, then you hear what is reality.
Yeah, that makes sense. And I think really to me, that trio of pitchers, the young pitchers, really showed the work that they've done in developing players. And I think that's the crux of what they've done right and why they can be really good going up. And I'm still mad that the Orioles didn't sign Nolan McLean out of the draft. And now he's great for the New York Mets, the biggest mistake of the Mike Elias era. Anyways, that was a perfect segue, Dave, for you talking about the Yankees team building philosophy. Why don't you talk about the Yankees in general next? They're also 90 and a half. What do you think they are for this year? We'll get to that cluster in the middle, but they have the highest number in the AL East. Yankees 90.5. What do you think?
What a horribly uh, uh, difficult division they're in. So it's going to be, you're going to have to decide who's going to be the 90 win teams. There were two last year, right? The Blue Jays and the Yankees were both 90 win teams. I think you'll have two 90 win teams in this division again this year. And I think just like the Phillies who put on their work boots and they don't look pretty doing it all season long, but they have to find a way to muddle their way to a 90 win season the way other teams muddle their way to a 500. So the Yankees are a muddling to 90 win type of team. So I'm going over.
Shane, what do you think of the Yankees? You've actually been one of the better. I think you're 4-1 on them. You've been one of the better one out of this trio of picking the Yankees.
If I'm 4-1 on them, it's probably the only team I'm 4-1 on. I will say the last couple years, and I had this in my notes from last year, surprisingly low over-under numbers for the Yankees, 89.5 last year, 90.5 this year. And it felt to me a little bit when I first looked at it as a trap, but I don't see the depth on this team. I don't know. I know they're going to be waiting on Rodon and Cole to come back, and I kind of feel like this could be the Boone and Cashman swan song. Maybe I think assuredly for Boone, maybe not Cashman. He survives everything. But it was borderline a best bet for me. Under on the Yankees. I don't see it. And I think it's a really tough division. I think there's some teams we're going to see that bounce back in big ways in this division, and it's going to be tough. And I'm just the big names just don't pop off the page to me anymore as guys that are going to win a bunch of games for them. So I got them under.
One of the most frustrating things to me as an Orioles fan for this Yankee teams is watching Cam Schlittler really emerge at the end of the year. Because to your point, I looked at the staff and I was like, these guys are all banged up and they're injured and they're not reliable. And here comes a guy riding in who nobody had really even knew. He comes in, he pitches great at the end of the year. He shoves it in the playoffs, and now he's their new guy. And I know this gets overhyped in New York, but I think he's a really good pitcher from what I've watched. And it frustrates me when the Yankees find guys like this, because you're like, you guys are the guys who just go out and sign big players. You're not allowed to have these guys just fall in your lap like
Yeah,
this.
but they don't because we thought that Luis Hill was that guy, right? And then
And he
they
still
just
could be. He still could be. He was just hurt last year.
well
I
they
mean,
just
this
sent
is
him
my
down.
point. I actually think it's a pretty deep pitching staff that people don't realize. They don't have Rodon until the end of April, and Cole's coming back later this year. But it's still Fried, Schlittler, Weathers is solid. I mean, they have enough good pitching, I think, to get through. And as much as I can't stand. One of the things that was so refreshing about the Blue Jays was watching them, their contact hitting philosophy, and just that they always put the ball in play. And the Yankees are like one of our slow pitch softball teams, Shane. They're just swinging for the fences. It's all or nothing with them, and I hate that approach. But I always feel like that approach can be good enough in the regular season. And I think the Yankees are like a 91, 92 win team, and I'll go over with them. So yeah.
Right, like they muddle their way to 90 wins. Like it's a weird thing to say, but they muddle their way to 90 wins.
Well, they'll be in the middle of like July and have like a 6 game losing streak, and the sky will be falling in New York. And then you'll look up in September and be like, they're 20 games over 500. What's going on?
Exactly, yeah.
That's just the way they are, and it's annoying, but it is what it is. Dave, I'll go actually, Shane, I'll go back to you for this cluster. Toronto and Boston. Toronto 88.5, Boston 87.5.
Well, you already know you can probably re-rack my Toronto take from last year. I'm going right back to it. It was my worst take of all of 2025. Hopefully, it's better this year. Toronto's my sell high team. Like I said, I was very wrong, and I'll double down. I think that's another one of those teams, kind of like I mentioned with the Guardians, magical run, hard to replicate. They always talk about the team that loses the Super Bowl the next year always kind of has a really rough year. Kind of think that same thing is going to happen to Toronto this year. I don't see a lot of things coming together as well as they did last year. And I think I'm not as high on this pitching staff as I think some other guys are. And I think their number last year was 78.5. This year that goes up by 10 to 88.5. And I'll get to this again. Got other teams I'm more excited about. I'm under on the Blue Jays. The Red Sox, team I'm over on. I think roughly the same total as last year. But I like their pitching staff, and I'm a big fan of Bello. They've got Crochet, Suarez, and Gray, and those guys are great. I think Bello is going to have a really, really good year, and having that deep of a pitching staff, I think is going to get him to the over. Bello was in the fours, mid fours, high fours, in 22, 23, 24. He got it down to 335 last year. I think it improves even more, so I'm over on the Red Sox.
I'm going to repeat kind of what you just said, Shane. I just like the Red Sox and what they did. They have a deep pitching staff. Probably out of any team in this division, they're the most positioned to lose one or two guys. Now, one or two guys cannot be Crochet. It can't be, one of their top guys, but they could lose a few guys and still be pretty good. I'm going to go over on the Red Sox. And Toronto, I don't think they're going to take a huge step back, and I think they could be the mix when it comes to the postseason. I just don't think they're going to be 88.5. They're the same thing as the Cubs. I think they're an 85 to 87, maybe 88 win team. I'm going to go under. What do you think, Dave?
You talked me into the under with Toronto, both of you. I was going over, but then to hear you two talk and then to think about who else I have to talk about in this division. I'm not Steve Geller. They all can't be over.
Sure they can. Just give them all an over. You get it over. You get it over.
Make
So
the
I'm
people
going.
happy, Dave.
So I'm gonna go over Boston under Toronto, but maybe just like a dip under 80, 88, but under nonetheless.
What about the Red Sox?
Yeah, they're over.
They're over. Okay. Let's do this one quickly. Rays 77.5, Dave.
Under, because I mean, if everyone's over, they're under.
What about you, Shane?
Wait,
I'm
what's the
going
number? 77?
77.5.
77, yep.
Uh, under.
Shane, you're one of the big Rays. Turn it, set it and reset it every year. What do you think about them this year?
I'm going to rinse, repeat again. I think, and you're going to laugh, I think a return to the Trop is actually going to be a huge hidden advantage, kind of like what Coors Field is for the Rockies. For some reason, the Rays they play well there. I think Eric Neander does a really good job being above board with this team. And I like the hitting, and I think the pitching will be good enough. I'm going to go over 77.5.
He's a Rays truther.
I am. All the way to the end.
Man, when this team gets up to the 80s, they're a hard team to pick because when people actually believe in them, I don't trust them. When they're like this, I know they're going to come out of nowhere and bite everybody again. I think this team can win at least 78 games. So I'm going to go over. I really don't. I think this team is not a 500 team. They're going to finish tops 80 wins, but I think they're somewhere in that 78 to 80, tops maybe 81, 78 to 81, battling it out and stealing some wins from these teams that are, it's just, this division's just going to be a war this year. So I'm going to go over. Okay, I'll set you guys up, and I know we're going pretty long, but Dave, do you want to start off on the Orioles?
What's the number?
Oh, I'm sorry, 85 and a half. I was just going to have to make up one.
I, uh, I have to believe that the Orioles do a little bounce back from last year. And I think that they kind of began that bounce back after the horrible start. Their second half was much better than, or did they fall apart again towards the end?
Towards the end, but their second half was a lot better.
85 is the number?
85 and a half.
Their pitching is worrisome a little bit. Man, 85 is a good number. Um, Under. Sorry.
What do you got, Shane?
My question for you, Steve, is going to be which Adley Rutschman shows up this year? The one that fell apart mid-season 24 and we haven't seen him since, or the one before that? And it might, and you know what? It might not even make a difference because I think Samuel Basallo, he might make it irrelevant. I think he's a good player. But the Alonso and Ward additions, along with, and here's my side play, Trevor Rogers is going to win the Cy Young. I love the guy. I think he's going to be a huge number one. The Orioles, their trajectory is going straight up after last year. Everybody's down on them all. The Orioles are going back to being bad. Orioles are good. Orioles are going to win this division. So I'm taking Orioles and I'm taking the over.
Yeah, I don't think they're gonna be bad. I don't think they're gonna be bad. I just don't think they're gonna have 86 wins. I think they're gonna have 85.
It's a tough play at the division, and this is where I've struggled. Like I'm looking at all these teams, and I know the Orioles are going to be better this year. I know they probably 84 is maybe their floor. I don't think they'll go much lower than that, even if things go wrong. Although I said last year I didn't think that was going to happen, and that kind of fell apart. Shane, your question about Adley Rutschman is my question too. Because I honestly feel like Pete Alonso, the person who's going to benefit most from Pete Alonso coming to the Orioles is Gunnar Henderson. Gunnar Henderson now has real protection, and it doesn't have to be Adley Rutschman. So my thought process is if Adley Rutschman is just okay and the same he was last year, they're good. They still can go over, but they're not going to be elite. If Adley Rutschman can return close to what he was, which I'm doubtful of actually, but if he can get back to that, this team wins the division, like you said. They win the division if he can get to that point. The other thing I'll say is these three starting pitchers are all very interesting. They're top three: Rogers, Bradish, and Boz. I think Bradish is a top 5 or 6 pitcher in the AL. I love Kyle Bradish. I think he's the best pitcher on their team. Trevor Rogers, I liked last year, and I think he's a good pitcher. He has good stuff. I just question like that he pitched so well last year. There has to be some regression, and I just wonder where that goes. Boz is the big wild card, and I think he's really good this year. He's got probably as good stuff as any of them, so I expect them to go well. The one soft underbelly of the Orioles is they don't really have proven bullpen guys. I don't know if you need proven bullpen guys, but they're still rolling with Keegan Aiken and Yennier Cano for like season 3. It's like, can we try something different? Kittredge is hurt again, like he was last year. And so it's Helsley or bust almost a lot in that pen. And then they've got they had 5 different pitchers who are like in the 20s, maybe early 30s, who pitched 5 or more appearances in spring training and didn't give up a run. Those guys might be good. I think a couple of them could be. And if they are, that's a good team. I'm going to go over with the Orioles, and I like them here. So we'll move on to our best bets. And I will start with Dave, and then we'll go from there. I did say Orioles over, so I'm just retracking on that.
Are we doing 1-1-1-1-1, or I give you all my best
We'll just
bets?
do one. Yeah.
Padres under.
Padres under. Shane,
Giants over.
Giants over. Okay, let me look and see what I did. I had one that I really like. Well, I'm going to go with one that Dave and I did last year because I like it again. A's over. Shane?
I'm going to go with a team that I think is going to be hard to stop. Another best bet, Mariners over.
Mariners over. Dave?
Tigers over.
Tigers over. Um, I will go with Nationals under. And then on top of that, why not? I mean, even though I had a lot of doubt about them, I'm going to go Pirates over.
I will see your Pirates over and match it.
Okay. Shane,
I'm going to stay in the AL West and I'm going to go with an Astros under.
Astros under. Can you can you follow up with your next one too? Number 4.
I sure can. My last two are going to come out of the AL East, and I'm going to, like I said, double down on a best bet of the Blue Jays under 88 and a half.
UJ's on. Is that 4 or 5 that you have?
That's four for me. Four for
Okay.
me.
I'm gonna go Orioles over.
White Sox over.
White Sox over.
In your face, Sanderson.
Double back on your next one, Dave.
Yankees over.
Yankees over. Okay, and Shane.
You will never convince me that before my take on the White Sox, Dave was going to have anything to do with the White Sox in his best bets. So I can't wait to see how this. I angered him into a best bet. I'm going to close one of my favorites, and I think you're going to like it too, Steve. We're taking the Orioles over.
Orioles
Wow,
over.
you both are high on the Orioles. I must be missing something.
I'm gonna go Marlins over. I like that pitching staff, and I think I just went. Did I? I went all overs except for the Nationals. The Nationals received all of my negativity. Okay, let's.
Yeah.
Did you, for your best bets, take any teams that are perennial playoff teams? Were they
No.
Marlins, the Nationals? Who else did you take? The A's, the White Sox?
Marlins, Nationals, Orioles, and someone else. Oh, Pirates.
Pirates. Yeah, the Orioles are they're kind of standing alone in that group.
I'm staying out of the public eye here. I'm just going with surely under the radar plays here.
I owe you one more best bet. The Phillies over.
Oh yeah, Phillies over. Wow, Dave, you've done a 3 or a 180 on the Phillies because last year you were down on them.
Yeah, I learned my lesson.
Yeah. You're trying to guard this. This seems to me like trying to guard yourself from disappointment.
Yes, this whole podcast is me supporting myself emotionally, preparing myself for for disappointment.
We're your emotional support Zoom avatars. Okay, let's do the divisions quickly and we'll wrap this up because I know we've gone pretty long. AL East, Central, and West. Shane, do you want to start us off on division winners?
Absolutely. AL East, I'm going to go with the Baltimore Orioles. AL Central, I'm going to keep it safe with the Detroit Tigers. And AL West, I will take the Seattle Mariners.
Dave?
The Sox, red ones, Shane. The Tigers and the Mariners.
I'm going, I hate doing this. Yankees, Tigers. Yeah, I have to do the Mariners. You kind of have to, right? Shane, do you want to go with let's do NL East, Central, and West?
NL East, I've already taken care of one of my cohorts with the Orioles. I'm going to take care of my other one. I'm going with the New York Mets. In the NL Central, I will take the Chicago Cubs. And in the NL West, I don't even think that one takes a lot of thought, the LA Dodgers.
Dave, who do you have for the NL?
The Phillies, the Cubs, the Dodgers.
Phillies, Cubs, and Dodgers. I'm gonna go Phillies. No, I can't go Phillies with what I did. That doesn't make sense with my bets. I'm gonna go with the Mets. I think the Mets and the Phillies nip and tuck till the end. I'm gonna go Brewers. We always discount the Brewers. I'm gonna go with the Brewers. And then for the West, I'm gonna go with the Rockies. No, I mean the Dodgers. Of course, it's the Dodgers. Yes, yes. AL wild cards. We got 3. Do you want to go first, Dave?
Yeah, I do want to go first. The Yankees, the Orioles, and the Blue Jays.
These Orioles. All AL East, huh? So you've got 4 AL East teams getting to the playoffs. Wow. Shane, what about you?
Despite the fact that I hated on them on their over-under, I'm still going to put the Blue Jays in as a wild card, put the Red Sox in as a wild card, and I will put the Texas Rangers in as a wild card.
I am going to go with the Orioles. I'm going to go with the Red Sox. And I'm going to go with the Mariners. No, I said the Mariners. I'm sorry. I'm going to go with the, God, yeah, I'm going to say it too, Dave. I guess I'm going with four AL East teams. It just seems right, I guess. Yeah, we'll go with that. Why not? Okay, last one. We got the World Series. Dave, do you want to start us off with your World Series?
Did we
Wait,
do?
did I
Did
give
we
you my
do
NL wild cards?
NL wild
I'm
card?
sorry, NL wild cards. I'm racing right through it. NL wild cards first, yes.
You want
Shane, you
me?
can go first with the wild cards.
I will go wild card 1, the Phillies, wild card 2, the Brewers, wild card 3, the Giants.
What about you, Dave?
The Mets, the Braves. Oh, am I doing it in order?
It doesn't matter.
Doesn't matter.
Mets, Braves, Pirates.
Pirates.
Ooh,
Ooh.
I
This is like the A's last year. So Pirates, get ready for a great 2027. I had the Mets, so yeah, I will go with Phillies is one. I will go with Cubs as my other, and then I will go with Phillies, Cubs, and I'm going to go with. Let's do the. Did I pick them over? Let's do the Padres. We're going to go with the Padres. I just think that bullpen will take them there. Okay, let's go World Series picks. Shane, start us off with yours.
I'm going to have the Seattle Mariners advancing to face Dave's New York Mets and your World Series champion, the Seattle Mariners.
Who do you got, Dave? You picked
I
the Mets last year, by the way, Dave.
say that again.
You picked the Mets last year, which I was surprised. You picked your favorite team.
I know, and you know what? I did it again, but I think I'm changing my mind. And I think I think I'm changing my mind because I don't want to pick them again because I don't think it's true. I think that was my heart talking right there. I'm going with the Dodgers and the Mariners, and the Mariners winning the World. Mariners will win.
Oh, wow. So you guys both have the Mariners. Well, I'm going to try to manifest what I don't want happen to happen and go against my bad picks. Oh, this pains me to do this.
I think I'm scared to hear what you're about to say.
Yeah.
Going Yankees over Dodgers in the World Series.
Oh.
Yes. Yuck. That's what I got, unfortunately. That's gross, and I just want to shut off the podcast now. So those are your picks. We ran a little bit long here today. I think, well, we probably stayed in, it's about an hour 40 or so. Went a little bit with that, but
Great insight has no time limit, Steve.
well, I can keep talking and talking and talking and going from here, but I've got a lot of thoughts on these teams, but I should probably get and turn on Netflix so I can see that the Yankees are losing 15-1.
Oh yeah, that's right.
Well, hopefully we'll do this better. The other thing I want to acknowledge, so let me just go through. Can we run? I'll run through our best bets one more time. I'm sorry. We'll do that and then we'll sign off here. Best bets, and I just want to go.
Can't they just hit rewind?
They can.
Why are we gonna say it again?
Yeah,
Why are we gonna say it again?
Just,
I
just
guess
trying to
we
make
could.
it easy for
I
the
just-
booth. I mean,
I wanted to just go through it because I
I'm
don't
just
have
kidding.
it. I wrote it down. So
I'm just kidding.
go ahead and give me yours because I don't even know if I know mine.
Well, because I crossed them out after I said it, so now I have to read under. I crossed them out so I wouldn't say them again. Padres under,
Padres under.
Tigers over,
Tigers over.
White Sox over,
Red Sox over.
Yankees, Pirates, Phillies all over.
Yankees, Pirates. Isn't that 6?
Are we supposed to do 6?
5. Never mind. We're good.
Oh, we only do 5?
Yeah, I think so. 5.
Dave
then I
feels
didn't-
that good. He's just bumping it up to 6. He's just
Oh,
giving
then
up.
I didn't owe you my last one, so get rid of the Phillies.
Get rid of the Phillies? Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. Shane, what were yours again?
I'm going with Giants over,
Giants over.
Mariners over,
Mariners over.
Astros under,
Astros under.
Blue Jays under,
Okay.
and your division champion, soon to be Baltimore Orioles over.
Okay. And I did Orioles over, Marlins over, Pirates over, Nationals under, and I'm looking for my one last one that I had there.
Marlins.
And I did Marlins. Yeah. Yeah. Okay. One thing I should acknowledge is we had one other person doing the picks last year. He's not on the podcast. Ryan Moss. Kudos to him. He was 18-12 last year. I think I finished 16-14. Dave was 13-17. Shane was 11-19. We're ready to rebound this year, and we will do better. I think all of us will go over 500, and we are on our way to victory. So I'll acknowledge that.
Would you give us Ryan's best picks and his playoffs?
I can do that, but you'll have to buy some time while I look up his results. So why don't you give me one more wax lyrically on the Mets for one more second here.
Or maybe Shane could give us a preview of the NFL draft.
Well, that I'd love to hear. That's a whole other podcast on itself.
What we might have to do, because I'm sure we're going to get tremendous feedback on this, is you may see us here in another month and we will do an NFL draft preview, just so that you're not only getting a fill of baseball, we give you a football fill as well. So
that would be fantastic. I would love to do that.
Or Dave, who is your NCAA basketball national champion? Tell the people right now. Who do you have?
I picked Florida, who's already gone. I picked them to beat St. John's.
Yep. Oh, you had St. John's in the Final Four?
Yeah.
Okay, I did as well. Yep. I got Arizona over Houston. Who did you have, Steve?
I have the Michigan over Houston.
Michigan.
No, I don't have. I had Michigan over. I'm sorry, I had Michigan over St. John's. My apologies. I had Florida in the Final Four, but I had Michigan over St. John's. I picked Michigan because my bracket name was a Michigan player, so that's why I picked Michigan to win it all. Random Yaxel kindness.
And I'm in television random bracket. I'm winning. I'm in first place.
Random Yaxel for kindness.
Yeah. Okay, so now that we've bought enough time, I'm going to give you Ryan Moss's picks. Let's just give you his best bets. So his best bets: Dodgers under, best bet Rockies over, best bet Braves under, best bet Astros under, and best bet Detroit over. So clearly, we all like Detroit. His division winners: Yankees, Tigers, Mariners, wild card Blue Jays, Red Sox, Royals. NL East: Mets, Cubs, Dodgers. Or I'm sorry, NL, Mets, Cubs, Dodgers, Phillies, Padres, Brewers. And his World Series, he did this last year and he's smart. He picked the Dodgers over the Mariners. So he's going chalk. I felt like I was going chalk, but I hate that I have the Yankees there and that's my protection. So that's where we are. We've given you all of our picks. We've given you all of Ryan's picks. Congratulations for Ryan for joining us in the first year and making us all look bad. We'll all try to do better this year and we look forward to a good baseball season. So we will bid you adieu, and you can go enjoy the NCAA tournament, the Major League Baseball season, and the NFL draft, and we'll be back. Thank you, everyone.